Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 5 of the Value Education Olympiad. My name is Sanna Mittar. I'm a student at Warwick University. And today we have with us Professor Ramesh Goel talking to us about justice. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Jana. My pleasure
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Professor Ramesh is an environmental engineer and sustainability professor and graduate director at the University of Utah. He is the recipient of the prestigious Presidential Award for Research in 2011 and numerous awards at the department, university, and national level as well. He's published more than 60 papers in journals, and today he talks to us about environmental justice. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Jana, for the wonderful introduction. Um, I'll just start um, saying good evening to everybody, good morning to people, those in the United States. I'll start with sharing my screen. So all can see my screen now. So today's presentation is on environmental justice organized by Value Education Olympiads supported by SCON, Govardhan Eco Village. I just start with what is the environment. The environment is whatever surrounding us, whatever we see, the mountains, the trees, the lakes, the glaciers, that is the environment, something we breathe in. And there is two-way exchange. We get benefited from the environment as well as we affect the environment. Our activities affect the environment either positively or negatively. But unfortunately, because of our too much interference with the environment, oftentimes environment is negatively affected. Glaciers are melting, the wastewater discharges into our river and streams. Examples are Yamuna River and many parts of Ganges also. Now the big Nile River is also the salt levels are increasing in Nile River, which is one of the biggest or the biggest river in the world. And plastic is big problem in the environment. Whether we talk about plastic bottles or micro or nanoplastics in the environment. Freshwater availability. We see around us and we see big lakes, we see great lakes, we see big rivers, but they all together, they only constitute only 0.3% of total fresh water on Earth. Only 2.3. And of those zero point 0.3, 30.8 are glaciers, groundwater, soil moisture. Soil moisture is not easily available. Permafrost, such as in Alaska, they are not available to us. So we're just left with a very small portion of fresh water. And of that fresh water, almost more than 50% is contaminated around the world. So not only we are scarce in fresh water, but it is contaminated. And the concept of water scarcity is also very relative. Under normal circumstances, we have enough water. Even if 0.3%, we have enough water. God has given us enough water to survive. But because of our greediness, because of our affluent lifestyles, this water seems low, and we call it scarce water, water scarcity. So I'll start with justice. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people. All people means regardless of their race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development of and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. So I defined in this presentation, when I was preparing this presentation, I was also a little bit confused. Okay, what I'm presenting on environmental justice, but then I came up with this term also, justice to the environment, and both are different things. Here we are talking about people primarily. In this one, we are talking about primarily the environment because of various activities I showed you, environmental pollution. Are we doing justice to the environment? Are we maintaining environmental sustainability? So let us see if I can play this video. If you can see about environmental justice. Can you, let me share my screen. Okay, let's go with just the PowerPoint. I think it's not allowing me to share. That's okay. I just wanted to show you a video, but it's not allowing me to share. So, oh, Pranjal Pro, can you see my screen?
Prabhuji, can you just try again now?
Yeah. Why it's showing your browser is not allowing to share screen? Your browser has blocked your screen. Click the screen icon in your address bar. I don't know.
I think so is facing some issues with his connectivity. He'll be back with us, and we'll continue with the session on environmental justice.
Okay, but you can see it again, Shana.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. I wanted to show my apologies. I wanted to show you all a video, but this software is little different. I think the one we are using to live telecast. So what I was talking is environmental justice and injustice to the environment. So in this presentation, primarily we're going to talk about environmental justice, and towards the end, we'll talk about injustice to the environment and what exactly we can do to save the environment. So I had in animation mode, but I'll read through. Environmental justice is really concerned with documenting and understanding the disproportionate and unequal environmental burdens that contains communities face. So it's basically talking about communities, and in the United States, communities of color. Dr. Dorsetta Taylor from Yale School of Environment says in the United States and around the world, low income, black, indigenous, Latinx, and Asian people tend to be living in spaces where environmental hazards, extreme natural and human made disasters, and environmental degradations occur more rampantly. The disproportionate distribution of environmental hazards to the poorest, brownest, and blackest people. So it's just not people of color, but it's also poor people. Is no coincidence, as Taylor puts. That is by design. That means it's just not randomly, just oh by chance it occurred. It is done intentionally, and that's why it is injustice. Dr. Tors, again at School of Environmental Justice at Yale School, tells that the term originated in 1990s following the results of a study of the placement of federally mandated hazardous waste sites, which found that the bulk of toxic areas were located in African American communities, resulting claims of environmental racism, he says, launched environmental justice into the public eye. Environmental justice not only seeks to identify the maldistribution of hazards and deficits in terms of environmental benefits and outcomes from health and other social factors, it also helps communities organize around these issues, reduce the inequalities, and seek positive legal and policy changes that address these inequalities and help to improve their life and health conditions. Important claims of environmental justice and activities. Hazardous facilities are concentrated in minority and low income communities, and that's what the observation was. Many people have conducted research on this topic, and they have consistently found wherever environmental injustice takes place, this is because hazardous and waste disposal sites are more concentrated in minority and low income communities. Uh, these communities are exposed to inordinate amount of environmental hazards. Poor lived in the most degraded environments, and this we see often in many other countries also. For example, the concept of slums in India is pretty prevalent. Minority communities hosted a disproportionate number of hazardous and noxious facilities. Minority communities were deprived of amenities such as parks and open space. Minority communities were saddled with poor transportation and garbage removal services. What are the causes and effects of environmental injustice? The causes are what we call process failure in the political decision making of cities. So, politician or city planners, those city planners, they work on the orders of politicians and government maker. They design, as I stated in previous slide, they design intensely to keep communities at uh, disadvantage away, and that's where the cities, that's how big cities were designed. The discriminatory redlining practices carried out with federal housing, and these are more pertain to United States history. In 1930s and 1940s, where many black families were denied loans to purchase properties except in areas that were dilapidated or highly contaminated with environmental hazards. So intentional, so it was embedded in the government at the higher level. When it comes to zoning law, many low income communities and communities of color are zoned in a way that it's easier for a polluting industry to set up shop there. So you see, it's all interlinked, connected. These environmental injustices contribute to significant health disparities in the communities that face them because they have poor transportation, they are easily exposed to this contaminated site and different contaminants. These contaminants can travel through air because of emissions, or they can get into groundwater because when these disadvantaged communities are located, generally they are located in area of poor sanitation, poor water supply. So for them, nearby river or ponds or groundwater becomes the main source of drinking water or water to use. And oftentimes, because of industrial activities, those waters are polluted, and it becomes very difficult also to prove that the water pollution is coming from these big industries. It takes years, and we'll see few examples in next few slides later on. So lack of environmental amenities such as trees that improve air quality makes marginalized communities more likely to acquire respiratory conditions as well as mental health and development issues. In many cases, environmental injustice make these communities more susceptible to illness like COVID-19 because these communities have these pre-existing conditions like asthma or lungs-related respiratory conditions. So as we know, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 virus tend to attack more uh, severely to people who are already suffering from lungs-related disease. So, environmental justice consideration, we can consider it as local environmental justice, local scale, and we should be asking questions like what are the environmental and public health impacts? What are community values and priorities? If we really want to address environmental injustice in the community, these questions are what we should be asking. What is the process to empower the community in project development and implementation? So it's decision making at local scale, but in collaboration with these different communities of with disadvantage. Who stands to benefit from the project? So how this project will benefit these communities? For global environmental justice, who is most responsible for cleaning up atmospheric carbon? So because one is local means you can dump, for example, a full bag of garbage, so that its effect will be negative effects will be more locally. So local environment justice. Globally, climate change, for example, because of this greenhouse gas emissions, is big global environmental issue. So, and that not necessarily related to just communities at disadvantage, but in general, this is environmental injustice. Some countries they emit a lot of carbon, and others don't. But yes, when it comes to climate change, all everybody is responsible. And then there are various other issues. So, what are the global technology and resource transfer implications? What can we do globally? Many strong countries they emit a lot of carbon dioxide, but they are technically very strong also. What we call industrial revolutions. Then intergenerational environmental justice. How will decision around mitigation now impact future generations, and how will decisions around technological climate change specific now impact future generations? So it's not related to just current situation, but future also. We have to account for future generations. Something which may not affect today will be affecting 30 years from now. So, example of environmental justice. This is a clipping from BBC World Service, St. Louis. It's a Midwest in America, where a lot of black community lives, and and this is directly from a news paper. Says environmental groups say they support black people but struggle to advocate them. So what is happening is, they struggle to activate them because environmental activities often cite research that shows that black communities experience um, severe problems. University of Washington, St. Louis, but oftentimes they tend to struggle to advocate them, and the reason is in the social pressure. The reason is lack of funding, lack of money for them. Another from same area, activists of color in St. Louis find it hard to fit into the environmental movement. So in this particular area, for example, and this is similar case with other areas also around the United States, and we see same thing in other countries, that there are not programs designed to recruit people at disadvantage. There are some programs, uh, their history, the non-profit organizations, NGOs are there for more specific in this area, St. Louis. And for example, their founder in the past, 25 years ago, the founder clearly made a statement that we will not recruit, black people. Of course, they are recruiting now, but now when these minority people they join this from the one of the activists, one of the person who started working in one of these firms, she clearly asked, "What you have done to address this social disparity in your organization? Give me proof, then only I will start." So they started asking these questions to these organizations. But this is not like, I'm not talking about like old stuff. This is from last year. So still going on. There are efforts in the society to wipe it out or to reduce it, but the efforts are not 100%. A civil action, I'll share something. This is a true story, a civil action, a case of Waban. So Waban is a small town 8 miles north of Boston. So now it was what, like 50 years back. So now maybe they just merged. You don't see a separate town. 8 miles is not too far. That time it used to be too far out of Boston, and they and this small town was just revolutionized by many big industries, and these big industries were using these nasty solvents, trichloroethylene and other chemicals, and there was no water supply. So in the town of Woburn, not everywhere. So the main source of drinking water or fresh water was groundwater wells in this town. So suddenly, what happened is, uh, children and then people in this town they started having cases of leukemia, cancer, in this town, and they couldn't figure out what happens. So local people they started doing search. They did water testing, and they found that there were two wells in the trial, legal trial. They named those wells as and H, G and H well. So there were high concentration of these nasty chemicals. And what happened was, these two company, Grace and one other company, they dumped a bunch of used chemical, like you see on right hand side picture on the site. They just dumped them in these areas, and those chemicals were dumped on ground, and then through soil they got into groundwater, and they traveled all the way to this drinking water wells G and H, and people were unknowingly drinking water from these wells. Uh, so, so this civil action is a movie actually based on this whole episode of Town of Wauban, where John Travolta plays the role of lawyer who is fighting for these residents. So he comes, but then he refuses to fight, and he also convinced that, oh no, there's no case. These people in the town are just going after nothing. But then he sees some incident, and then he realizes that he sees some document, and he realizes, yes, it's true. So then from there, he fights on behalf of the villagers. of this town people, and then eventually they won it, and there was like multi-million-dollar settlement between these companies and residents of Woburn. But the thing is, in terms of environmental justice, can you replace the cases of leukemia? Many died, out of that settlement. You cannot. And even after 50 years, Environmental Protection Agency, US EPA, is still cleaning that site. Many portions still cleaning. It's so contaminated that the USB EPA is still cleaning. Another example is Eric Bronkovich Hinckley is an unincorporated community in Moab Desert in Saint Bernardino. So again, this is a community at disadvantage, minority community. It's 14 miles of Barstow, 59 miles east of Moab, and then big city is 121 miles driving distance from northeast of Los Angeles, just north of California. So what happened is similar type of stories. There were these heavy metal concentrations were high in their drinking water, and people were suffering from skin rashes and other problems. And Erin Bronkovich was a lawyer played by Julia Roberts. She, like a civil action, she fought on behalf of these residents, and then they eventually won the case. And but it was not easy. It's not like overnight. In 6 months you filed the case and they won it. It took years from them. So, and that is environmental justice. It's money consuming for them, time consuming, and yet these big companies, they don't want to accept on the basis of money and power that they are the culprit when things are obvious in front of them, in front of everybody, and still. But then there was settlement, multi-million-dollar settlement, almost $400 million settlement. And then again, my question is, can money pay off the damages which had already occurred with these residents, their children, and the area? So Flint water. Flint is a small town near Detroit, and this happened like 3 years back, not too long ago. Um, and then this town has water supply for years. For years, people can see that water is coming, colored. You see on the tap, you see this bottle, all the collected from different parts of this town, Flint, and that's where General Motor (GM), the famous automobile company, they started their business out of this town. This was a hub. So this town was prosperous. People were happy. A town of almost 200,000 people, and almost 80% of those 200,000 people were employed in General Motor. And then, because of recession and problems, economical problem, General Motors started cutting down their operation in Flint. So many people were laid off. And on the other hand, and most of these people were minority people. On the other hand, the water was contaminated. Residents shouted, they complained, they filed many complaints with the senator, with the government, but nothing was done until in 2015 and 16 there was wide survey of drinking water, um, and then they found high concentration of lead in water, and then a lawsuit was filed, and then of course the residents won, and then now the lead pipes were replaced with other fresh PVC pipes, and then there were some um, compensation settlement also. And this is church in the picture you see, and he's church pastor. Pastor Morgan offers a history of lesson of Flint's wars since General Motor packed up and left town, taking tens of thousands of jobs with it. The economic depression, the soaring murder rates, the state's imposition of an emergency manager on Flint, the closing of two of the city's four public schools, as in Detroit, plaster falls from the rafters and red stalls the halls. Water rates that were raised five different times. The putrid water that was too corrosive and General Motors and too risky for Governor Rick Snyder's own staff, but deemed good enough for Flint residents. So you can see the disparity uh, among people. So governor and his staff did not drink, but yet they were saying, "Well, the water is safe. Don't worry." Morgan's 4-year-old granddaughter Malia Ray Beckett broke out in rashes from bathing in the water. He compared her skin lesions to the Flint child on the cover of Time magazine. She has eczema and her skin broke out after she was playing outdoors. At first, we thought it was because of sun. Finally, the water test and smell convinced the family to stop using it. And many people in town, those who could barely afford, they switched to bottled water for months, for years. But unfortunately, it took a lot of time to address this issue. In Indian subcontinent, I don't work in India, but I picked up some information. Previous national level research indicates that scheduled caste percentages are significantly higher in Indian districts that generate industrial waste compared to those that do not produce such waste. Uncontrolled wastewater discharge from industries to farming land could cause damage to soil health, and it is happening in many parts of India and affects farmers negatively because industrial wastewater contains heavy metals, other contaminants, and they deposit in soil. And once they deposit in soil, they affect soil health, which is needed for sustainable agriculture, affect soil health negatively. Uncontrolled wastewater discharges to upstream. So down, upstream we discharge wastewater, but then downstream where the river is flowing, for example, there are communities, low income communities located, and they are the ones who, oftentimes suffer. Union Carbide disaster in Bhopal in 1984. It was not example of environmental injustice to minority, but it was environmental injustice overall. Slums are considered to be major issue within many urban areas, particularly problems related to transportation, population, health, and safety. Considering today's poor urban environmental quality in India, the majority of families affected by urban development projects are located in slum areas, which are under consideration for resettlement and or rehabilitation. So, so I talk about environmental injustice or environmental justice, but what is environment? I started off, and then I will close off with this few slides. So the root cause is environmental pollution. So whether we are doing environmental pollution in communities of with disadvantage, or we are doing international, this is all about environmental pollution. And the question is who is responsible for it? And as a result of our consumerism nature, consumers we tend to consume more. If you go to a mall, you will have 35 different types of bathing shops. And the question is, why do we need? And nobody could answer that question. Why need? Because consumers, we in the society want to have a choice. Oh, I want to have choice. I want to have options. I need to choose from 35 different shops. And this is just a typical example. And this is the case with cosmetics, utensils, and clothes, and vegetables, and fruits. Everything so manipulated. So we are living in materialistic society. We are misusing resources, lack of responsibility. You see people traveling through train throwing outside. It's common. I have done it. I degrade, but this is a common thing. We throw things like that. Simplicity is lost. Complexity uh, generates more environmental pollution. We've seen that this direct correlation. Self selfishness, conflicts, violence, exploitations. We exploit the environment. What all these things have caused: pollution, water scarcity, climate change, health issues, ecological losses. So there is an imbalance between society and the nature, and that imbalance has called environmental destruction. In one of the scriptures in India, Srimad Bhagavatam states, and the story goes like this: Mother Earth is running after, she's running from King Pruthu. He is ruling the whole world that time. And what happened is, citizens, they come and they complain to Maharaj Prithu, say, Mother Earth, she is not giving us the seeds, the vegetables, and the minerals which are needed to sustain society. And Maharaj Prithu is very, very pure, and he cares about his citizens. So he is very powerful also. So he's running after Mother Earth, and Mother Earth, seeing King Prithu coming after her with his bow and arrow, she became very much afraid and began to tremble. She then began to flee, exactly like a deer which runs very swiftly when followed by a hunter. Being afraid of King Prithu, took the shape of a cow and began to run. So, then after that, running, but she couldn't run. She could not run from Maharaj Prithu. So eventually she was caught, and Maharaj Prithu is about to shoot an arrow. So there, Mother Earth asked him, "Why are you after me?" And Prithu asked, "Well, you are supposed to give my citizens grains and seeds and all the minerals. Why you stopped?" And Mother says, My dear king, not only the grains and herbs are being used by non devotees. When we say non devotees, in today's context, we can say an unconscious person who don't care about environment or least care about environment, and who are not God conscious. The God could be in any form. But as far as I am concerned, I am not being properly maintained, and this is like millions of years ago, right? So indeed, I am being neglected by kings who are not punishing these rascals who have turned into thieves by using grains for self sense gratification. Sense gratification means just for the body. We don't appreciate the Lord, we don't appreciate the Supreme Personality, and consequently, I have hidden all these seeds. So the message is clear. Message is, well, people are misusing resources from me, and that's why I stopped. And this is exactly what is happening in today's world. We're misusing resources, and we are just exploiting these resources. So water consumption and um, and contamination is there's a direct correlation between water contamination and environmental pollution with affluent lifestyle. So you see right here, number of motor vehicles per thousand people. Look at United States. This is what we call it capitalist country. Uh, so 79 per thousand people. Almost every person has a motor vehicle. Now the scenario in India is also has significantly changed. This number 12 has gone significantly higher. Sorry, 9, and then in China also has gone higher. But China has controlled very nicely. I visited Beijing a few years back, and then they were telling me that it's very difficult. You have to put yourself in queue. There are waiting list for like 2 years, 2.5 years waiting list to buy a car there. You cannot just go and buy a car. So they have done even in terms of not only in terms of vehicles, but in terms of in water usage, cubic meters of water per person per year, this much versus developing and developed country, significantly, tripled, not double but tripled in with respect to developing country. So there is a direct correlation between affluent lifestyle and then water consumption, misuse of resources. You see water withdrawal per capita. You see red, which is on the higher side, U.S. right here. So lot of water consumption. And then moving from simplicity to complexity, more and more people choosing affluent lifestyle, moving to cities has negative consequences because we are, you know, using resources. They are uh, less lone places to dispose of our uh, garbage and whatnot. So moving to city, you see New York Times Square. Sometimes it looks like so much of pollution. So we have gone from. I'm not saying we stay in hut, but still we can lead simple lifestyle. We have gone from simple lifestyle to complex lifestyle. We have moved from very pristine environment, and then what we have done, we have contaminated this different environment you see on your left and right. Uh, for example, like in 19, I remember lakes around Bangalore, Lake City, known as Lake City. The clean people used to fly to Bangalore, and the environment weather used to be almost 16, 18 degrees centigrade throughout the year. Now it is regular. You have hot and cold, and all those lakes are polluted, and this is really really unfortunate. So modernism versus indirect water footprints. It takes 25 full bathtubs of water to grow the cotton to make one t-shirt. It makes 20 to 66 gallons of water to make one pint of beer. A man who eats meat drinks a few beers once in a while and likes dairy product consumes 100 times his own weight in water every day. Vegetarian people half of that. It takes 200 gallons to produce 1 pound of sugar, 330 gallons to produce 1 pound of rice, 1,300 gallons to produce 1 pound of meat. So, if you're vegetarian, you cut down this water demand, right? And if you consume less rice, you cut down water demand here, right? So there are areas, but because of our modern and affluent lifestyle, we have adopted all these negative practices, and that is causing water scarcity. That is causing environmental pollution. So otherwise, there's still plenty of water on Earth, fresh water, even if it is contaminated. We can nicely survive, but because of our nature to misuse resources, we feel that we are in water scarce society. The promotion of consumerism, however it is portrayed in media, leads to increasing pollution, as I stated, resource scarcity, biotic impoverishment, and other forms of environmental degradation all over the world. The negative impacts of economic growth contribute to the loss of health and life among poor in every country. It is of little comfort that, despite the best efforts of scientists, engineers, and technological optimists, progress in solving our waste and pollution problems has been decidedly erratic even in the world's most advanced economics. I live here, and there are several problems. I mean, 50 miles from now, a big, like 24, almost, I would say like 40 square kilometer, and then lake is contaminated. It's fourth largest freshwater lake in uh, Western Hemisphere, and still it's contaminated. So it's not that pollution is limited to developing or developed countries. It's everywhere because human nature doesn't change. When you go from uh, even Greenland or Canada all the way to the south part of the continent or the globe, same problem. People are moving from simple lifestyle to complex lifestyle, affluent lifestyle, and that's what is happening. Countries like United States and Canada are responsible for more than 90% of 350 million cubic tons of hazardous waste produced globally each year. Can you see 90% other countries are producing only 10%? And this is all directly related to affluent lifestyle and what we call advanced society. Environmental justice through scriptures. Varnashrama dharma, duties performed according to the system of four varnas, social division, and four ashrams. stages in life. Focus is on responsibilities which naturally fulfill the rights to other. So scriptures in every religion, I would say, they automatically provides uh, social parity. They condemn social disparity in society. For Varnas or Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Brahmanas will supposed to have higher intelligence and they're supposed to guide the society. But unfortunately, in today's world, Brahmanas don't think that way. Anybody can become Brahmanas. Uh, so Kshatriyas they protect the society. Vaishnavas they are business class people, and Shudras they maintain the society by their hard work, artisans and workers. And this division was created by the Lord, not such that people will be exploited, but just to maintain a balance in the society so that one serves other. And this is how it's been done even when we call Sati Yuga or Dwapar Yuga. And then four ashramas are student life, household life, retirement, and the renunciation going to uh, take sannyas or you go to ashram. So, and this is supported in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse in 13. Chaturvarnam Maya Sastaram Guna Karma Vagyaga Tasya Kratmam Api Mam Vidhi Akratam Vayam. According to three modes of material nature, what are those three modes of material nature? Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society as created by me. Me means Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. So here me means Krishna. And though I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, non changeable. So so the taking care nature of Mother Earth is embedded in scripture, and we know the story about Hinaksh and Varha, Lord Varha, when Hinaksh stole Mother Earth and he just put it in very filthy, condition there. So Lord Varha, Lord Vishnu took incarnation as Lord Varha because Varha um, could only revive Earth from filthy environment. So it's there in our scriptures how that's happened, and in other scriptures also. Uh, so what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, O Arjuna, everything emanates from me in bodies of water. I am the ocean in flowing rivers. I am Ganges. I am the taste of water. So if it's coming from the Lord in any form, then who are we to spoil, these resources? If everything is part and parcel of the Lord, how can we spoil these resources? The very thought that the nature is the resources, everything is expansion of the Lord. And once we have this realization, then perhaps we will not exploit different resources. So, what is ISKCON doing in terms of environmental? ISKCON has a strong presence in environmental sustainability, environmental stewardship. There's ISKCON Environmental Initiative, which I am also a part of, where the idea is to make all ISKCON temples, ISKCON society environmental sustainable. Why this initiative? Tangible ways to put values into practice. We excel where we measure technical assistance with operational challenges, opportunity to engage volunteers, and this is in development stage. The website will be launched pretty soon. We already have all the principles lined up, mission statement done, our individual, and this is more like organized. I'm not saying environment, ISKCON is not taking care of environment currently. There are various excellent efforts, and this is to make like temples more sustainable. There are societies, there are communities which are already sustainable and putting excellent examples and getting many awards from UN and then government. This is what we have developed for different temples, like tier one, very simple, where you can do, like, for example, food waste reduction plan for efficiency. Don't throw food, efficient use of food, biogas via smart purchasing. So these are like labeled one things which can easily be implemented irrespective of temple size, small temple or big temple. That's why we call tier one. So we have divided these different areas into food, energy, waste management, water, education, and outreach. And then tier two is more for like little big temple, grow vegetables in temple garden, like small temple. If you're in Boston area, you don't have big temples, so but you can do these small practices. Then you go little bit in big temple. Sometime big uh, big cities have big temple with nice yard. So so it's not exclusively that, oh, these are for small temple, these are from big temple. But in general, we divide into these different tier one, tier two, tier three. Tier three is more uh, kind of higher level things. Use milk only from temple cows or other. We cannot have temple cow gosala everywhere. It's very specific for big farm communities having a cow. So we divided these different tiers. This is under environmental initiative. There are excellent examples. There are several. One you can see in India. There are many other in India. Govardhan Eco Village, which is 90 miles from Mumbai, Wada, Gujarat, Maharashtra border. It's excellent, excellent community. They have cows, organic farming. They follow all 17 sustainable development goals from uh, and then it's amazing. I've been there two times. They have educational programs, their theology degree now. So it's wonderful. It's really, and it's not too far. Um, you will be surprised to go that how beautiful this is, and this is totally sustainable society. People, the waste, there's waste recycling. They're their own treatment plant, water recycled and reused for irrigation purposes. This is Krishna Valley in Hungary. I've been there. Very nice. None of the houses except the main temple auditorium. That's it. That's where the light is, and one small guest house. Otherwise, there is no light. People use old uh, lifestyle, and these are people from Hungary. Hungary is one of the developed countries, and that's how people live there. Sustainable farming. You see, this churning kohlu, what we call, right? People do those all things right there in this modern society in Hungary. Bull cart, they're using bull to plow. They don't use mechanical things to plow the field. They're doing it. They're like more than almost 100 families there, and living in a sustainable and simple way. So some of the things I showed you. I think I am pretty on time now. Again, my apologies for the glitch about this PowerPoint sharing. We tried, couldn't show full screen. I hope it worked. I will stop here. I mean, I think I can show you a couple of more pictures maybe. Just in India also, the sustainable practice were there. We still see those in some parts of India and rural areas. Nallas where water will automatically come through seepage, and this nala will serve as drinking water source for villagers. And then talab or jordas. I hail from village in northern part of India, Haryana. I used to bring water from jordas for bathing purposes, and then these canis in southern part of India, and then these surangas, and there where you can go and get water. You see person getting water, just dig something because there's groundwater table right there you can get. So these are some of the sustainable ways people still employ. We employed, I have employed, I have done it, and it was sustainable, more sustainable. Appreciating the nature is embedded in our society, embedded in our culture, it's embedded in our scriptures. We pray to lingas in a mountain and then stone in the form of linga. We know the story of Govardhan. We know neem tree is worshipped, um, banyan tree, and then tulsi. They're all worshipped. So the concept of ecology is embedded in our society, in our scriptures, and then unfortunately this is lost. And this is what ISKCON supports. ISKCON does, bringing back to our basic necessities, basic style, lifestyle. So it's just not about devotion, but also about sustainable lifestyle. I'll stop there. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'll stop sharing, and then I am ready to take any questions if there is any time.
Thank you, sir. That was an excellent session. I think everybody here has learned a lot from you today. Anybody who has any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll be happy to take those questions. Somebody has asked, what are some of the tangible things that we can do to better take care of the environment?
Um, the first tangible thing is we have to be responsible. And once we're responsible, responsibility in terms of our obligation to the environment. And when I say responsible, responsible in many aspects. Number one, we have to start appreciating the environment, what we get out of it, and then we have to uh, be a conservist in the sense that should be satisfied with our minimum needs. So the most damage is done to the environment is because of our consumerism nature. We just tend to consume, uh, and once we are responsible in this regard, we start appreciating. Then I think it will do miracles. Appreciating the environment and then changing our own lifestyle.
So, another question is that most of these environmental practices require a lot of cost incurring for households or even companies to recycle plastic or paper. So, how can an average person in their daily lives be cost efficient and still be able to help the environment?
One thing is at household level, like if you think at household level, how do we negatively contribute to the environment? We take bath and we generate gray water in kitchen instead of uh, using ashes or using less water. Now we have dishwasher, and how much water is used in dish washing machines? A lot. So, in fact, I'm contrasting, your question that, it's cost. We are the ones who are, in fact, making this whole environmental practice costly, because we have chosen complex lifestyle. And we talk about companies generated to plastics. I mean, why would company uh, contribute to plastics, and why? What is the cost associated with this? If they promote non-plastic bottle, if they implement water fountains, if they implement water refill stations, it's not going to cost them anything to these big companies. But they don't do that because it's not their agenda, and that's where the anomaly, the discrepancies, the people think that, oh, there's a lot of money involved in addressing the environmental needs, but it's not. It's all habit based. As continuation of the last question, it's all habit based. If we improve our habit, if we change things, whether it's big company. For example, a typical example is when you're taking bath. I mean, in village, I used to take bath by filling a bucket and well satisfied. But nowadays, in modern lifestyle, what we have is in bathroom we have showers, and just think about a scenario where you're using soap and the shower is on, so water is wasted, and then you take bath. So why do you have to do it? It's our own affluent lifestyle. It's not money, it's not cost, but it's on our affluent lifestyle, and then degraded habits, which has caused much damage. And of course, greediness of these big companies has caused damage to the environment.
I think we have a question on screen. In short, what is environmental justice?
Yeah, as environmental justice says, environmental justice is looking everybody similar. Whether these are people, poor people, or people uh, in India, we can say scheduled class or scheduled tribe, or in other country, we can say people of color, black people or brown people. when we see them equally from their environmental rights. That's environmental justice. That's environmental justice.
If we're taking care of our needs, so are we doing justice to the environment?
If we are taking care of our needs, so are we doing justice to the nature? Again, you have to define your needs. What is our needs? Um, my needs could be that I will go to my office, which is not too far, 1 kilometer on bike, or my need could be I will buy a nice car and go to the office. So who will define my needs? And that is this disparity in our attitude, in our lifestyle. When we talk about our needs, in the name of needs, what we are doing is we have pampered ourselves, and that's where we have exploited the environment. So first we need to define our needs, and needs should be sustainable. Needs should be in line with the environment. Needs should um, be something which don't exploit the environment. And then yes, God has given us resources to fulfill our need, but not to exploit different resources. How
I
save our environment without disturbing the technology? Actually, it should be the other way around. I'm not understanding like disturbing the technology. What do you mean by disturbing the technology? But if I understood a little bit of this question, I mean, we can save the environment if we implement these small, small changes in our lifestyle. If I say, well, I'm not gonna buy plastic bottle every time I empty one, you just buy, use it and then throw it. No, next time when I see a hand pump or somewhere I can fill in my bottle, I will fill it, I will do it. So it comes from individual responsibility. It's not about technology. Technologies are needed when things become out of control of human. When things become out of control of us, then we need technology, right? But then technology has negative consequences also. So it's not about disturbing technology, it's about changing our habits. When we start changing our habits at root level, very small level, we see miracles. We don't need revolution, we need to change our own habits. We are responsible for environmental injustice. We in the society, it's not just we cannot finger, point at the government only or people. Yes, of course, there are problems, geographical imbalance, and then town planning. But then we are responsible. If we create less environmental pollution, less wastage, and that's where the environmental injustice come. And how do we take care of environmental injustice? By thinking that everybody is same, we all are part and parcel of the Lord, and that thinking doesn't come overnight. And that's where I stated ISKCON promotes scriptures, and of course many other organizations perhaps. And that is the purpose, that is the mission statement of we see everybody with equal. There is no scheduled caste, scheduled tribe in the path of devotion or service to the Lord. Lord doesn't differentiate, and Lord could be in any form. So it does not differentiate between black or white or brown, and that is the theme which ISKCON promotes. And as long as we adopt that theme, uh, we will be okay. There won't be any environmental injustice in the society. Why is there so much injustice in the world? And it's same question. Because of disparity, because of our thinking, because of our own nature. That's where the injustice is there. Because we tend to think differently. Oh, I am superior. My own arrogancy, my own ego, my own superiority complex, all these things, and my own exploiting nature, all these bad qualities, inherent qualities in us, cause this environmental injustice. Not only injustice, but many other societal problems in the world. We have to start seeing everybody equally. What is justice? That's, I mean, before your question came, Dikshita, I answered. We have to start seeing everybody equal. and that is justice. And it doesn't come overnight, it needs a practice. And the practice is, of course, when we center everything around, when we start appreciating Lord, that Lord, you have given us so much, we should take care of this. We should not exploit resources. We all are part and parcel. There is no difference between brown and black or SC or ST people. That thought, when comes in our mind, then we will start doing justice in the society, not only in the form of environment, but in other uh, things also, even using resources. How we students can spread awareness about saving environment. Students are backbone of the society, and they can serve as ambassadors. In fact, universities, colleges, they focus on physics, chemistry, math, but they should focus on environmental awareness. They should focus on enriching students from many other aspects, because they are going to be uh, environmental ambassadors or engineering ambassadors in the society. So you can set examples as student. You can start programs. You can start small programs at society level, in your mohalla, in your street, in your gully, in your society. You can start programs, and that's where the changes will happen. You don't have to be, technological expert. You can start recycling program in your small society. You can organize open town meetings, for example, or society meetings where every 15 days or every month you organize something for awareness. Many household people, they don't know that they can do these small changes in their lifestyles, in their water uses, and those things will do miracles. So as students, you have a lot more to do. You have a lot more role to play in the society to maintain societies and the environment sustainable. So can you give an example of environmental justice? I mean, there are examples nowadays. There's no such example of environmental justice when you are going, for example, you are walking on a footpath, right? And then when you see a beggar sitting there, you can do two things. You can throw one coin and then call it good and say, well, I did my job, I donated money. Other option is you can sit with beggar, you can talk to him, what is his problem, and maybe the beggar is begging because people look down upon him. Maybe he's qualified, maybe he can do something, and then you help this beggar to perhaps do something, get a job. You sit with him, share his pain, and then things might change, right? So that's justice, right? That's exactly. So that's what government, that's what NGOs, that's what industry, they have to do. And this is what justice is: justice to the society and justice to the environment. We have to think everybody equal. We have to give equal opportunities. We have to create programs where there's no disparity in our planning of the town, and there's no disparity with other people. What will happen if environmental justice will increase? Well, if it increases, that will cause imbalance in the society, and an imbalanced society is not good. An imbalanced society cannot be sustainable. Then there will be conflicts, and of course, there will be internal problems, and then resources will be depleted. And then you see, coronavirus is not just limited to X person, it travels. When there will be disease, health problems, they will spread in the society. And this is the fact we tend to forget. So we have to be a little bit careful. If the environmental injustice is spread, the whole society will be in trouble. How can we live without technology? If not, when vaccines can't be made, humanity will be destroyed. I'm not saying that we live without technology, but we don't use technology where it is not necessary. At few places, we can avoid technology. But in modern society, of course, we need technologies to take care of things. But how can we make those technologies sustainable with minimum environmental resources? How can we cannot just do and implement something. There are studies, there should be studies involving their life cycle analysis, what impact this particular technology will create, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, immediately. So yes, I'm not saying we need technologies, but we have to be a little bit thoughtful. Can you explain why do we call Govardhan a eco place? Um, ecology, right? What is ecology? When things live in harmony with the nature, that's ecosystem, ecology, right? Ecology is a broadly defined term. So ecosystem, and then when we study its logic, the language, that's ecology. And in Govardhan Eco Village, that's what, everything is in harmony with nature. As I stated, waste is recycled, no modern technology is used. People there, devotees, they thrive on the produce, vegetable and fruits generated, produced there, grown there. Rainwater is collected in big pond, and that is recycled. There are Ayurveda programs. There are just not only for physical for body. All what I have told you so far is for the body, right? Body needs to eat, body needs water, but there are a program for the mind, enrichment of mind. So eco village, that's why it's called eco go with an eco village. Everything is in harmony with the nature. So what is the difference between justice and equality? Justice and equality. Justice is broad. I would say it's my limited understanding in this area. But as far as I understand, from English point of view, justice is more of like broader term. You can have justice in the house. You can have justice in the environment. You can have justice in the law, right, or criminal. But equality is more very specific. So justice is more like broad term, and equality is more focused term. Equality in terms of rights, human rights, equality for women, equality for minority population. So that word is very specific. How justice has been harmed in recent years. Well, you have to see with it around you how justice is environment. I believe you are asking for environmental justice, and it's being harmed. It's that's why it's a big area, big issue in every society. Uh, and I gave you a few examples, like even 3 years back, and there are many other societies which are negatively affected by environmental injustice wherever you go. So this is still prevalent, unfortunately. But people started realizing the best thing is to educate people, to educate householders in those areas, and what they can do to fight against adverse environment, uh, and generate educational program, uh, create funding, create awareness programs in the society, and that's where we can address these issues. How justice is blind? Nothing new, Pari. Justice is not blind. It's the people who use justice, laws manipulate. They are blind. They tend to blind. Justice is never blind. It's just the people, we are blind. We tend to manipulate things and we make things blind. So this is our mistake, not justice. Justice is well defined. Justice by Lord is well defined. In books, it is well defined. We have to change ourselves.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we've answered most of the questions. Just to summarize what we learned in the session today, we spoke about environmental justice. We started by talking about what is environment and the common problems faced by the environment in today's world. We spoke about environmental justice and injustice to the environment as well, and where this concept came from. We spoke about the important claims of environmental justice, about how minority and low income communities are usually involved in hazardous facilities, and these are communities that are exposed to these environmental hazards. Then we spoke about the causes and effects of environmental injustice and the environmental justice consideration model as well. So then went on to talk about the various examples in popular media as well that talk about environmental justice and injustice. We spoke about the Indian subcontinent and the problems faced by the environment in the Indian subcontinent and across the world as well. We spoke about who is responsible for the for environmental pollution, whether it's the society or whether it's the misuse of resources or simply a selfish nature that all humans have. We concluded with talking about how environmental justice is also spoken about in our scriptures and how consumerism leads to a lot of pollution and environmental injustice. I thank you, sir, for joining us today. It was a wonderful session. I hope all our viewers who've joined in today have been able to understand the concept of environmental justice. For everyone watching us, thank you for joining in today. Please make sure to download your reading material from veolympiad.com. Please make sure that your friends register for the Olympiad. The registrations close very soon. And we'll see you for the next session on next Sunday. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you
us.
so much, Shanna, and thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening ahead. See you in future. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.